Chapter 5, Step 3, Meet Needs. We experience the hands-on practical side of Luke10 transformation when we begin to carry out Step 3. This is something that was key to the ministry of Jesus, and we should replicate this in our lives. As you watch this next part, start to think how you can respond to the immediate needs of those around you, whether they're Christians or not.
Step 3 of Luke10t teaches us that the gospel of Jesus is often very practical and hands-on. It's about meeting people's felt needs. And in Matthew 25, verse 31 to 40, we hear how significant this step is if we call ourselves followers of Jesus Christ.
Matthew 25, verse 31 to 40.
When the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all his angels with him, he will sit on his throne in heavenly glory. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate the people one from another, as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He will put the sheep on his right and the goats on his left. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, you are my blessed by my Father. Take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry and he gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and he gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and he invited me in. I needed clothes and you clothed me. I was sick and you looked after me. I was in prison and you came to visit me." Then the righteous will answer, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you?" The king will reply, "I tell you the truth. Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers of mine, you did for me."
There can be no misunderstandings as to what Jesus meant regarding our love and service to the least of these. In Luke 10, he tells his disciples, "Heal those who are sick." He is clear about how he wants his disciples to respond to the needs of people around them. Step 3 in the Luke10t teaching is about meeting people's felt needs.
This is what my friends and I have been looking for. This is what many in our generation are looking for. It's a Christianity which is real. It's about compassion, being hands-on, and about meeting people's needs, Many of us also just want to see justice, and this is what Jesus' teaching is all about. And if we call ourselves followers of Christ, this is what we need to be doing. We need to be living it out. We need to be inviting our friends to join us and to live it out with us. Jesus' love becomes practical and real when we can help people with their physical needs that they have in their daily lives.
It's really just about observing and keeping your ears open. People always have needs. It can be anything as small as needing money for transport to dealing with grief of a lost relative. There are so many creative ways to problem solve, and it's rewarding every time I use my resources or gifts and talents to help someone out. I've got into the habit of tuning my ears to the needs of the people I work with.
What about when there's a need that's greater than I can actually solve? It's really easy to just feel all helpless and get depressed in a situation like that. But then I thought, well, I should probably involve God in this. Firstly, it's possible for each one of us to just pray silently when we become aware of a need that one of our friends has. But then I learned that I can take it further. Initially, like the first time I went up to someone to ask them if I could pray for whatever they needed, was really awkward, but then it just started becoming more natural and easier. And now I find that I can even approach strangers and ask them if I can pray for them about the current situations they're in or the concerns they have. And it's amazing because people's responses are usually so positive. I mean, every now and then you get a bit of a funny look, but most of the time people say yes. I think it's because they sense your love and concern. You know, the other day I even had a friend of mine Facebook me to ask me if I could pray for him for one of his exams. was really so encouraging.
It's as easy as asking someone how they're really doing when you greet them. Usually, people just say fine, but a little bit of probing can usually tell us how they really are and if they need anything. Everyone has needs or concerns every day.
Yeah, I only used to pray alone by myself, which is okay, but one day I was surfing and I saw this guy in the water and I knew he was going through some trouble at home. So I decided to paddle over and ask him if he needed some prayer. And in doing so, I put myself out of my comfort zone. And it also was amazing to see his response because he was actually really blown away by the fact that someone cared about his situation and his struggles.
Walking among this community, it's very easy to feel overwhelmed. There are literally hundreds of opportunities for me to reach out daily. There are actually too many people here that have needs, so I am constantly asking the Holy Spirit's guidance on which opportunities to take and trying to be sensitive to His prompting. Sometimes, the Holy Spirit also starts tugging in your heart by showing you a need and directing you into a larger calling. Then, you begin to realize that we are playing a small role in a much bigger, much more epic story.
I've also started thinking that this Luke 10 example is not just for individuals. We can also ask for God's blessings on organizations such as schools, companies, government departments, hospitals, and police stations. I've heard some incredible stories of Luke10t being applied in organizations and the powerful effects it's had. Imagine the impact we could all have if all Christians could unite so that every home and every business can be prayed for on a daily basis.
With which of the four main characters did you most identify with, and why? Choose someone from the group to tell the story of each character's development in Luke10t as depicted in the video clip. Discuss it in the group now. Every day we are surrounded by so many people that have needs. If they aren't obvious in your environment, then you should begin to ask God to show you these needs. Take some time to discuss together some of the needs you have encountered in your sphere of influence. Perhaps hearing from others will help you to think of situations you might not have thought of before. What are some of the needs around you? It is remarkable how easy it is to use the standard reply to most greetings, that is, "How are you? I'm fine," as a starting point to find out whether the person is actually in need by asking, for example, "How are you really feeling today?" Discuss how you can use the standard greeting to find out how people you meet every day really are. Once you've heard about a need, you should first try and do something physically by using your gifts, talents, money, or by using your voice to encourage. In order to more effectively reach those around you, you should identify your strengths and gifts and use them to respond to the needs of those around you. Write down your talents, gifts, skills, and abilities, and then think about how you can use them to meet needs practically in your environment. There are times when the problem might be something that even your gifting, talents, and resources aren't capable of solving. But even if you feel there is nothing that you can do about the problem, you can always pray. In this way, each of us can meet the needs of those around us on a daily basis. When you pray, it can be a silent prayer in response to hearing a need that you can't solve. Or you may ask the person expressing the need if you can pray for them right there. Everyone has got needs, and you can ask people and pray for them anytime, every day. If someone's need is private, they may say so, and therefore you may pray for it as a private need. God knows what it is. If someone does not have a need or cannot think about something, ask if you can pray for God to bless them, and if yes, then do it. To build up your confidence in praying for people, split into groups of 2 and ask what are some of the needs you can pray into for each other. You will probably come to find that this is an encouraging time for both of you. After praying, discuss as a group your experience and how you felt having someone pray for your needs. You should come to find that each of you will be able to carry out step 3 and maybe carry it out in different degrees. Some of you might only pray silently. Others of you may pray with people for very challenging needs that you hear about, whilst others still may be ready to ask about and pray with people for their everyday needs. Remember, at whatever level you do step 3, you are doing your part and you are still doing L10T. What happens if you approach someone to ask if you can pray for them and they say no? This is not a problem, although you might feel a bit strange about the situation. Nothing stops you from continuing conversation with them and then praying silently later on. The key is to never stop loving the person. Think a bit about how you would react in a situation where someone responds negatively to your request to pray. Discuss this together. At the end of the day, the most important thing is to let the Spirit guide you in every situation to follow His leading. How will you allow the Holy Spirit to guide you? Take some time to reflect on this and give feedback to the group. The impact of L10T can be so much bigger and more widespread than we can begin to imagine if individuals and groups make it their responsibility to pray for the needs of businesses and organizations. Personally identify an organization where you can go ask the owner or person in charge what you can pray for them for. Write this down and set a date when you want to have this done by. You can also give them a card with a contact telephone number should they have any more urgent requests. As a group, also discuss how you can carry out Luke10t to the business, organization, or even street blocks or apartments around you. Discuss the importance of sustainability and love.